Again, this was pretty much, this was a passion project for me. I necessarily didn't want to, I didn't think I was going to be such an innovative mind to people and such like an influential look in the winemaking. People call me like the Walter White of wines. I don't know if anybody watched Breaking Bad, but he used to create the actual blue, like crystal meth. And like, they're like, you're like the Walter White of wines, buddy. Like you pretty much like are the science of wine. So this here is a Verdeco. This is from the region of Spain, specifically Alicante. It's more in the eastern part. If you're looking at Ibiza, it's literally horizontal to Ibiza. It's north of Cartagena and also south of Valencia. So it's kind of right in the middle of Spain, but a little bit more to the east, the Mediterranean coast. So this is the actual foundation of the wine. So Verdeco is very similar to a Vermentino or an Italian Grillo. It's more subtle than a Chardonnay. It doesn't have that oaky component to it, but it's more cleaner, more like a Pinot Grigio for the untrained palate. Now, this is the foundation of the wine, but we were able to utilize the next grape varietal that you're going to see here. This is the Nebbiolo grape varietal. This is from the region of Piedmont, or if the Italians say Piemonte. We were able to figure out that not only were we able to take the harvest and be able to separate the skins during the maceration process and sustain the color, but we were also able to figure out how to eliminate the oxidation of the skins to be able to transition it to what we're going to show you here. So usually, I'm sure everybody knows in the winemaking process, if you are doing more of a red wine, you're going to leave the skins during the maceration process and a little bit during the fermenting process. And after that, it's disposed of, right? Or if you're doing something like a white wine, you're going to dispose of them a little bit earlier, or rosé, you dispose of them a little bit earlier. So I'm going to show you all what the actual pH scale, how we were able to utilize this after 350 tries of separating the skins from the actual pH. So if you go to the next slide, please. The actual dynamic of looking at this pH scale is figuring the same dynamic as if you're looking at blood and plasma in the medical field. So if you're taking blood from a host, you're pretty much taking a blood type, and then you're running it through a centrifuge and allowing the actual separation of the blood to separate to the iron, separate to the plasma, and everything else that makes up the actual blood, right? Now, figuring out that there was the same type of way that we can utilize this with the fruits and vegetables, we did the same type of concept when it came down to the skins. So after we allocated the separation from the harvest and took the skins and ran them through the same type of process as they do with blood and plasma, we were able to not only pull the acid from the Nebbiolo grapes, which are very, very acidic on the first harvest there. It's probably around like a 2.5 or a 3 on the acidic calm point level. And we ran a natural allocated pH shift from a 3.5 all the way into an alkaline of an 8. At that point in time, we were able to bring that pH to the point where the skins were able to pull that color blue out naturally. We then had to figure out a way that we can introduce those skins to more of a sustainable powder form, and then introduce it to a packaging where the oxygen didn't necessarily touch it to the point where it would go back into a maroon color. So we were able to develop like a hyperbaric chamber to do this whole transition from acidic into an alkaline, develop the actual packet, and then transfer those packets from where we were doing it in Piemonte, and then introduce it back into the fermenting wine that was developing over in Alicante. Now, again, that process took 350 tries, not only developing the harvest, but also developing the actual machines that we needed to not only separate and then also eliminate the oxygen, but also be able to test it, because we didn't want to get it to the point where we introduced it to the Verdeco after the fermentation process, and then after it would be bottled and then oxygen would hit it, it would dissipate or separate. Since we were not dealing with something like dye, where dye would naturally separate like oil and water, but it was naturally adjusting to that acid back from what we naturally pulled it to the alkaline. So pretty much, if everybody sees here, we brought it from a 3.5, introduced it to an alkaline of 8, and then introduced that powder back into the Verdeco, and then brought it to a sustainable 5. So individuals ask us, well, if it's open for a while with oxygen actually hitting it, is it going to change? No is the answer, because it's already, well, we'll stabilize to like a coagulation of when like blood like starts to gain platelets. It's kind of the same concept. So that is the actual makeup and process.
But I think a lot of people may have misconceptions based on the color. I think one of the first things people might have is that they might think it's really sweet. Can you describe the tasting notes for us?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely. And thank you for bringing up that initial conceptual ideology, because I get it all the time. I get, is this Listerine? Is this Smurf? Is this Smurf pea? Is this Kool-Aid? You know what I mean? So yeah, you gotta laugh too when you look at this, because even though like, you know, it's a passion project, it's one of those things like you gotta laugh about too, because, you know, people sometimes, you know, whether it be ignorance, it's sometimes just, you gotta explain it to them. So initially, and I'll break it down for everybody, just like Charles would. So I'll break down the aromatics first. Again, initially, if anybody has it with you right now, you can probably smell the very, very subtle, I like to smell like lilac, citrus notes. You're gonna get the orchard fruit of nice like nectar. You're gonna get peach. It's gonna be super subtle. You're gonna get the nice lemon and lime balance on the aromatics. So it's gonna be very citrus based. Again, like a Pinot Grigio, but not as bitter as like a Sauvignon Blanc or like a oaky, like a Chardonnay. So it's gonna be more like a Pinot Grigio or a Vermentino. So again, initially you're gonna get those very subtle citrus notes. And on the palate, initially, right when you open it up, it's gonna have a nice balance of effervescence that's there, very clean, very refreshing, very smooth, that allows the peach and the nectar to be able to balance very nicely with the lemon, a little bit of lime, but also you're gonna get the subtle balance of that complexity altogether. On the finish, I like to say it's more like a Riesling. It's not going to have a very long lasting finish. It's not going to hold like a Chardonnay, but it makes it very, very pleasant when it comes down to drinking. So it's not like a wine that you have to pair things with, but you can drink this like you would drink a rosé. It's very subtle, very smooth. But if you do want to pair it with anything, the best things to pair this with is mostly fish, different type of seafoods. If you're big into like cod, whiting, you can fry it, or you can also have it pan seared. Honey glazed salmon is fantastic. Chicken française, light creams like chicken marsala, things of that nature, or also very light vegan meals, or a nice crisp Mediterranean salad, or paella as well. Anything that's like Spanish oriented or things of that nature. So Amour Genève means the love of Geneva. So again, my father loved the city of Geneva. And whenever I was a kid, he always like, well, he taught me how to ski. Like, so I've been skiing my whole life. Like, so outside of wine, I golf and I ski. So people are like, where did you learn these things? So my father taught me how to ski when I was very young. So he would tell me about Switzerland all the time, but specifically Geneva, because there's one part of Geneva that he always loved to go to, and it was pretty much this park that overlooks the, I don't know if anybody's been to Geneva in this room, but there's a park that overlooks this fountain that's shooting all the way up in the middle of the city, and it overlooks the Alps. And Geneva is a very small city, but it's very nature oriented. So the actual town that he used to go to, he used to tell me about it. And me and him were actually supposed to go on an excursion out there and actually go skiing in Zermatt, but we never got the chance to actually do that. So that's why I wanted to take that trip there and really tap into the energy that my father was talking about this city and about this area. And I wanted to do the research and finalize the research in that city. So when I was able to actually like nail everything down, I thought about it. I'm like, hey, I want to not only honor this to my father, which I did it on the UPC code. It says in memory of Freddie Francisco Salinès right here. But I also wanted to make sure that it was a legacy of Geneva, the city that he used to tell me about when I was, you know, you know, very small child. So, you know, I wanted to leave that legacy as a tribute to him as well. So, you know, I want to say this, because at the end of the day, like, I'm still just a Black man that has created something outside of what it is that many people would think that we can create. And, you know, I've always been a strong individual. And the people that I meet nowadays, they tell me, they're like, hey, they're like, how does it make you feel that you're looked at as like a hero to some of your people in your culture? And I tell them, I'm like, honestly, I don't feel that as of yet. People tell me that, but honestly, I take the reins 100%, because again, I'm an innovator in an industry that I never thought I would be in. But if I tell this to people all the time, and this is the number one thing I was explaining earlier, you know, if there's something out there that people want to achieve that they may feel like they can at a certain amount of time, you know, I've run into people now, they're like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to sustain my business that I've been wanting to do because I don't have the money to do it, or I don't have the support. You know, I didn't have any support. I hardly have any family. You know, I hardly didn't have any money to achieve this. I had individuals that believed in me, angel investors that gave me the first amount of money to develop this process. But it was not only resilience, but it was my tenacity in knowing that it was something that I wanted to and needed to do. Not only a passion project for somebody that I love very much that left this earth, but I wanted to do it only for the sole fact that there are people that are depending on me. And now there's more to people depending on me out there. So I know for a fact that this is bigger than me, and I'm just a vessel to allow other individuals that want to achieve whatever they want to do in this world, and also the youth. Because again, the youth are still the future. They're still the future of everything. And that's just what I'm on this earth to do. We're all on this earth to do amazing and great things. I'm just a catalyst to what it is that other people may not feel like they can do. I'm just the proven factor of that.